She promised a child, and he found himself losing to desire. Unexpected proposition. Commander Ilara Voss stepped onto the observation deck of Orbital Station Helios, her breath catching at the view of planet Lysithea below. Its swirling azure atmosphere and glittering crystal continents were mesmerizing, even after 3 months of diplomatic missions. Beautiful, isn't it? The voice behind her was melodic, with an accent that made standard language sound like poetry. Ilara turned to find Nevin Jar watching her. As ambassador of the Lysithian High Council, he was the reason she'd been stationed here. His skin held the characteristic pale blue luminescence of his people, offset by deep violet eyes that seemed to see beyond her carefully constructed military facade. Ambassador, she acknowledged with a nod. I didn't expect to find you here. I often come when the councils are in recess. Nevin moved beside her, his tall frame graceful despite the gravity adjustments. It reminds me why these negotiations matter. 5 years of interspecies conflict had brought their civilizations to the brink of war before diplomatic channels reopened. Ilara's mission was to ensure those channels remained open, regardless of her personal discomfort around the enigmatic Lysithians. Commander, I've reviewed your profile extensively, Nevin said suddenly. Your genetic compatibility results are remarkable. Ilara stiffened. Those tests were confidential. The High Council has access to all data shared with the Alliance. His gaze remained on the planet below. I have a proposition that might secure lasting peace between our worlds. A chill ran through her. I'm listening. Our species are genetically compatible, but natural conception has proven impossible. My researchers have developed a method that could change this. He finally looked at her directly. I propose a genetic bond between us, Commander Voss. A child born of both worlds. Ilara stepped back, shock evident in her expression. You can't be serious, perfectly serious. A living symbol of unity between Terran and Lysithian. This is beyond inappropriate, Ambassador. I'm a military officer, not a... Political marriages have sealed treaties for millennia on your world, Nevin countered. This would be similar, but with greater significance. Heat flushed her cheeks. This conversation is over. As she turned to leave, his words stopped her. The Lysithian Council votes tomorrow on continuing the peace process. Without something significant to offer, I fear the outcome. Ilara paused at the doorway. Find another solution, Ambassador. I'm not available for genetic experimentation. She left quickly, but couldn't escape the memory of his intense violet eyes or the strange flutter in her chest when he'd spoken of their compatibility. War between their worlds would cost millions of lives. She told herself that was the only reason his proposition continued to echo in her mind as the station night cycle began. For foreign protocols. 3 days after Nevin's proposition, Ilara found herself alone with him in the station's botanical garden, surrounded by specimens from both worlds. She had been avoiding him, but Admiral Chen's orders were clear. Maintain diplomatic relations regardless of personal feelings. Commander, your avoidance tactics are impressive, Nevin said, brushing a finger against a luminous Lysithian bloom, but counterproductive. Ilara squared her shoulders. I'm here now, Ambassador. What did you wish to discuss? The Council voted to continue negotiations despite opposition. He gestured for her to walk with him deeper into the garden. I convinced them without mentioning our discussion. Relief washed through her. Thank you for that. I shouldn't have approached you so abruptly. His voice softened. On Lysithea, such propositions are considered logical, not intimate. I forgot humans view reproduction differently. The path narrowed, forcing them closer. Ilara noticed the faint scent of something like cinnamon emanating from him. Our differences extend beyond reproduction, Ambassador. Nevin, he corrected, when we're not in formal sessions. Nevin, she repeated, surprised by how naturally his name felt on her lips. They reached a small clearing where bioluminescent plants created a private sanctuary. Nevin gestured to a bench. Tell me, Ilara, he said once they were seated. What makes humans value emotional connection over genetic compatibility? The question was clinical, but his eyes held genuine curiosity. For the first time, she considered him not as an alien diplomat, but as someone trying to understand. Compatibility is more than genetics, she explained. It's shared experiences, mutual respect, desire. Desire, he repeated, studying her face. We have this concept too, though perhaps differently. An alert chimed on Alara's comm unit. Emergency in Sector 4, she read, standing quickly. I have to go. I'll accompany you, Nevin said, following her rapid pace through the garden. My medical knowledge might help. They arrived at a scene of chaos. A hull breach had injured several crew members, both human and Lysithian. Without hesitation, Nevin knelt beside a wounded human engineer, his hands glowing softly as he worked. Alara watched in amazement as the bleeding slowed under his touch. Their eyes met over the injured man and something shifted between them. Respect, perhaps. Or the beginning of something more complicated. Later, as they stood in the decontamination chamber together, Alara spoke quietly. Thank you for your help today. We're not so different after all, Nevin replied, his violet eyes holding hers. Perhaps there are other ways our people could come together. The double meaning wasn't lost on her, nor was the warmth spreading through her at his proximity. The chamber timer beeped, breaking the moment, but not before Alara realized that her objections to his proposition were becoming increasingly difficult to remember. Midnight revelations. Alara couldn't sleep. The station's artificial night cycle was in full effect, but her mind replayed the emergency response, particularly the image of Nevin's hands healing the wounded. She finally gave up, threw on her uniform, and headed to the observation deck. She found him there, as if her thoughts had summoned him. Trouble sleeping? Nevin asked without turning. How did you know it was me? He smiled slightly. Your footsteps. Purposeful, even at this hour. Alara joined him at the viewport. Below them, Lysithia's crystalline surface reflected starlight in hypnotic patterns. I wanted to ask about your healing abilities, she said. Bioelectric manipulation. All Lysithians have it to some degree. He lifted a hand, demonstrating as a subtle blue glow emanated from his fingertips. I specialized in healing rather than defensive. Applications. A choice that likely saved that engineer's life. A choice that made me unsuitable for military service on my world. There was an edge to his voice she hadn't heard before. Not everyone supported my decision to become a diplomat instead. Alara understood the weight of expectations. My family has served in the Terran fleet for generations. When I suggested diplomatic corps instead of combat command, they didn't approve, he finished. They came around eventually. Silence fell between them. Comfortable this time. The genetic bond I proposed, Nevin said finally. It wasn't solely a political calculation. Alara turned to face him. What do you mean? Your genetic profile crossed my desk months ago. I've been fascinated since then. His luminescence brightened slightly. Embarrassment, she realized. I requested this assignment specifically to meet you. That's... Alara struggled to find the right word. Inappropriate by human standards, I know. He stepped closer. But I wanted honesty between us. His proximity sent her pulse racing. She should step back, maintain professional distance, but found herself unable or unwilling to move. What would it entail? She asked. This genetic bond. A series of synchronized bioelectric exchanges culminating in a genetic fusion. His voice lowered. Similar to what humans would consider intimate relations, though with purpose beyond physical pleasure. And is there physical pleasure involved? The question escaped before she could reconsider. Nevin's luminescence pulsed. Considerable amounts, according to research. Their eyes locked, and Alara felt the last of her resistance crumbling. She reached out, touching his face. His skin was warm, vibrating subtly with energy. Show me, she whispered. His hand covered hers, then slid down to the small of her back, drawing her closer. When their lips met, a gentle current passed between them, igniting sensations she'd never experienced. His other hand traced patterns along her arm, each touch sending waves of pleasure through her body. This is just the beginning, he murmured against her mouth. The full bonding process is much more intense. As the station rotated into dawn, Alara and Nevin remained entwined in the observation deck's shadows, exploring the first tentative connections between their worlds, and discovering that some diplomatic protocols were worth breaking. The Forbidden Alliance. The Terran Alliance explicitly forbids unauthorized genetic experimentation, Admiral Chen's hologram stated firmly, especially involving senior officers. Ilara stood at attention in her quarters, the private transmission making her stomach knot. 2 weeks had passed since that first night with Nevin. 2 weeks of secret meetings and increasingly intimate diplomatic discussions. With respect, Admiral, I'm gathering intelligence on Lysithian physiology. Chen's eyebrow raised. Is that what you call it? Our monitoring systems detected unusual energy signatures in your quarters last night. Signatures matching Ambassador Zhar's bioelectric pattern. Heat rushed to Ilara's face. Sir, save it, Commander. The Alliance needs this peace treaty. If your liaison jeopardizes that, I'll have you reassigned immediately. The transmission ended abruptly. Ilara sank onto her bed, head in her hands. What had begun as curiosity had evolved into something dangerously close to attachment. Nevin's gentle touches, his thoughtful questions about her world, his laughter at her attempts to pronounce Lysithian phrases, all had become precious to her. Her door chimed. Nevin entered, his usual composure replaced with evident tension. The High Council contacted me, he said without preamble. They've detected our bonding attempts. Ilara moved to him, taking his hands. Are you in trouble? They're intrigued. No Lysithian has achieved partial bonding with a human before. His fingers tightened around hers. But they want to formalize the arrangement immediately, turn it into a public symbol of unification. The Admiral just threatened to reassign me if this continues. She rested her forehead against his. We've crossed too many boundaries, Nevin. His luminescence dimmed. Do you regret it? The question hung between them. Ilara thought of their nights together, how his bioelectric touch had awakened sensations she never knew possible, how their minds had begun to synchronize during their partial bondings. No, she whispered, but I don't know how to move forward. Nevin pulled her closer, his body's gentle current wrapping around her like an embrace from within. There's a third option beyond ending this or making it a political spectacle. What? We complete the bond privately, tonight. His eyes searched hers. A full genetic fusion. Ilara's breath caught. You mean, yes, the possibility of creating a child. Our child. His hand moved to her abdomen. Once done, neither the Council nor your alliance could easily separate us. It's reckless, she said, even as desire coursed through her. It's what I want, Nevin replied, his luminescence brightening with intensity. Not for politics, not for peace treaties. For us. Later that night, in the privacy of her quarters, Ilara surrendered to the full bonding process. Nevin's body glowed brilliantly as their energies intertwined, his hands tracing patterns across her skin that left trails of light and sensation. Their bodies moved in synchrony, each touch amplified by bioelectric currents that connected them on cellular levels. Our energies are aligning, he whispered against her neck. Do you feel it? She did. A building resonance between them. Pleasure mounting in waves until they were consumed by light and connection so profound, it transcended physical boundaries. In that moment of fusion, Ilara glimpsed Nevin's memories, his childhood on Lysithea, his hopes for their future. When the glow finally subsided, they lay entwined, changed in ways neither fully understood yet. It's done, Nevin said softly, his hand protectively covering her abdomen. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Ilara nodded, too overwhelmed for words, knowing that tomorrow would bring consequences neither of them could predict. Unified Horizons, the conference room buzzed with tension. On one side sat the Terran delegation, Admiral Chen at its head. Opposite them, the Lysithian High Council members, their luminescence fluctuating with barely contained agitation. Between them stood Ilara and Nevin, hands clasped defiantly. This unauthorized union undermines the entire diplomatic framework, Chen stated coldly. The Lysithian elder, Matriarch Cell, leaned forward. Yet it has achieved what months of negotiations could not, proof that our species can truly unite. Medical scans confirm it, Nevin announced, his voice steady despite the scrutiny. The genetic fusion was successful. Ilara carries the first Terran Lysithian child in recorded history. Murmurs erupted from both sides. Ilara squeezed Nevin's hand, drawing strength from his presence and the new life growing within her, a life they had confirmed just hours earlier. Commander Voss, Chen addressed her directly, do you understand what you've done? The regulations you've violated? The risk you've taken with unknown xenobiology? I understand that I've found a path forward, Ilara replied. One that proves we're not just compatible for treaties but for life itself. Matriarch Cell's luminescence brightened. The child will have diplomatic status on both worlds. Protected, cherished, studied. Not studied, Nevin interrupted firmly. Our child is not an experiment. Then what do you propose? Chen asked. A joint research and cultural exchange center, Ilara said, with us as its directors. A place where both species can learn from each other, where our child can grow understanding both heritages, and where others might follow our example if they choose, Nevin added. Not as political arrangements, but as personal choices. The negotiations continued for hours, but the existence of the child had fundamentally altered the dynamic. When the final agreement was signed, it contained not just trade agreements and defense protocols, but unprecedented provisions for interspecies unions and citizenship. 6 months later, Ilara stood on the observation deck of the newly established Unity Station, her growing abdomen cradled in her hands. The view had changed. Now they orbited a neutral planet designated as the first joint colony. Nevin joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind, his bioelectric field harmonizing with hers in what had become their private form of affection. The first colonists arrive tomorrow, he said. 50 families from each world. Do you think they'll adapt as well as we did? Ilara asked, leaning back against him. Some will, some won't. His hand joined hers over their child. But they'll have us as guides. She turned in his arms. I never expected this when I took this assignment. Certainly not when you first proposed a genetic bond so formally. Nevin laughed, his luminescence pulsing with joy. Next time I'll lead with, I find you fascinating and beautiful instead of clinical terminology. Next time? She teased. His expression grew serious. In our next lifetime, perhaps. Because I would find you again, Ilara Voss, across any distance. As their lips met, their child moved between them, a small flutter of life that represented not just their love, but a new future for both their worlds, a future built not on political calculation, but on the most powerful force in any galaxy, the unexpected connections that transform duty into desire, and diplomatic protocols into profound bonds that transcend the stars themselves.